but thanks for doing this with us, John. So
of course.
The idea today is just to get a little history on kind of your background in music and when you started DJing first.
Oh, wow. Okay. I started DJing a long time ago, right after high school. I'll leave the years out of there. I used to go to Wisconsin. My sister used to live up there with my dad, and we used to go to Wisconsin because it was 18 plus back then to drink. So I'd go into these clubs, and I noticed there was DJs playing dance music. And back then, I think it was the venues we would go to would be like Mickey, Nixon, Oliver. So it was really cool. So I'd watch these guys. I was really fascinated by it. So eventually, I got into it. Started buying some records. I think my first 12-inch single I bought. Actually, the first 12-inch single I bought was prior to that, but it was Rapper's Delight I bought in Toronto.
Now we got some years involved.
Yeah. So that was a while back. That was before that. But anyway, I started getting into the DJ scene in the community back then. To be honest, it was the late '80s. So I would go to different clubs and venues and watch all the DJs. I would go follow all the mix masters from what was it back then?
Hot Mix.
Hot Mix, yeah. We used to go watch all those guys and just sit there, literally watch them from above and watch their mixes and watch when they brought in the songs. Because I had all the tracks. I would go buy the records, hit all the record stores, but I would watch them to see when they would drop the music. The tracks, and I would literally copy them. So that was a long time ago. After that, I bought my own turntables, and that was, again, probably more like the early 90s. I bought my first set of turntables. I had some, the first set of turntables I actually had was realistic turntables that I bought at Radio Shack. Didn't have any pitch control. No, I would just slow it down. I would have match the songs as close as I could and slow it down with my finger, and I actually got really good at just holding the side of the turntable. But then after that, I bought my first 1200s in the early 90s.
Now, has your history in the music, especially live music DJing, has it always been here in Champaign, or did you start?
I started here originally, back in the day. My first real DJ gig that involved using turntables. I used to be, back in the late 80s, I used to be a manager of a campus bar called Camps back in the day. And that's where I started DJing, actually. I was DJing in there, but I was just playing music. There was no mixing involved or anything like that. The first DJ gig I had was in the late 80s. It was the late 80s at a bar called Bradley's here in Champaign. It was like one of the only 2 DJ clubs in the whole city.
Is that the one over by Parkland College?
Yeah, it was over by Parkland College, and I remember Thursday nights were 50 cent call nights, and it was packed. And this guy named Carlos was DJing. He was like an unbelievable DJ. Like great mixing abilities, completely clean mixes. And one day he just had a tiff with the manager, and he was like, "Well, I'm going to leave," thinking that there was no one to replace him. And as soon as he left, I knew the manager's sister, and she gave her my mixtape and hired me. And I DJed that first Thursday, like right after, and it was nerve-wracking because I've never DJed in public before. Like other than Camps, I'm talking about mixing, playing songs. So that was my first DJ gig at Bradley's. But then I moved to Chicago, and I started working Wednesday nights at a club called Eddie Rockets. It was on Division Street, and this was like, again, late 80s, early 90s. It was a hot place, very cheesy. I mean, now looking back, a lot of neon and stuff, but it was the place to be. So that's when I started DJing there, and then I moved back here and started DJing again at Bradley's in different locations, and started opening up my own places and own venues and started getting into DJing.
Yeah, that was leading into my next question, is the promotion side of it. Obviously, you have the management history with some of the different clubs, and then the history of performing. But how do things start to translate into the promotional side of things? Did that come with your career with Red Bull? Or
No. Red Bull's been the last 10 years. I was in the bar business one way or another since the 80s, late 80s. And my forte was always the promotions. It was I was always a promoter. That's what was in my blood. As a bar owner, I was a promoter. As a DJ, I was a promoter. So that sort of started. I'd say probably in the early 90s, early to middle 90s, when we started doing events and stuff, and that's what I started doing. At that point, I had stopped DJing. I stopped DJing for like 10 years because I sold all my records because I was like 25, 26, and I thought, hey, I'm never going to make any money DJing. DJs don't make any money. They make a couple $100 a night. I mean, who would have known? Yeah. So I sold all my stuff, and I concentrated on promoting events and throwing events at my bar, or things like this, like Spindependence that we're doing. It's been going on for 14 years. Got back into DJing when I did the show here like 14 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, with Questlove from The Roots. Brought him here, and he was DJing. We were doing a sound check. And he, he had his turntables and mixer, just like his stepbrother, and he brings out his laptop in this little box and plugs everything in. And I was like, what's that? And he was like, oh, that's Rain Sirocco. I've never heard of this. He goes, oh yeah, and he showed me that, with this program, MP3, you can just click and drag a song to the left-right turntable, and it works just like records. And I was just mesmerized. And as soon as I went home that day, I went online and found it and ordered it, so I got back into DJing.
So the bug came right back.
Came back, and that was probably, at that point, we were in the maybe 2004, 2005, so it was 10 years, like 95 to 2005, 94. I mean, I had venues that had DJs, and I would jump on and say, hey, give me 3 records that go together, and I would mix, but I never did a night.
So you mentioned the Spindependence. Leading into that, obviously your promotional background, your history kind of built you, kind of looks like a singular focus towards something like this, but what, you said 14 years, is that right?
14 years on and off. Again, we started, I used to own a place called Barfly downtown Champaign.
And was it singularly like your idea, or did you already have
Spindependence? No, it was mine. We were sitting around and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do on the 4th of July. And there was a bunch of DJs that worked for me. I had a little place called Barfly, and we had DJs. There was a DJ booth built in. And we were just trying to figure out what's going on. Let's get together and have a barbecue and get all the DJs to play together on the 4th of July. And I came up with Spindependence.
Which was a great name.
Yeah. So, we went with it, and we did it for a few years, then I took a little hiatus from it. And then we brought it back 5 years ago. So it only took a 2-3 year hiatus, and we brought it back 5 years ago. And it's it jumps around locations in Champaign depending on the day of the week and the availability of the bar or club. But so it's been great. We've been pretty successful. This year we had a little bit of rain, but then we got around it. And it's going to be a good weekend.
My experience with you guys this year, and I've experienced it in years past just as a guest, but the vibe always seems positive. The nature of the talent and the acts you bring in, everybody seems very supportive. And I'm just wondering if that's sort of like, your hand in the cookie jar as far as guiding that, or is that just the way Spindependence in this city kind of just the way it rolls out? In other words, do you guide that by selecting specific talent, or is it just kind of that's the way it is?
I think that's the way the community is here. I was just talking to one of our Spindependence DJs. He was telling me he has friends in another town, and he said they're very competitive there. You can never pull this off there. But here, I think that's our community is here. I think everyone is friends with each other. All the DJs work with each other. They share nights together. There are 1 or 2 outsiders that will come in and try to stir the pot. But that's not beneficial for them. I mean, I don't care personally, because whatever they think. But it's not beneficial to them because they burn bridges and they end up not speaking. There's 3 or 4 people that pretty much, I don't want to say control, but DJ at most of the places in town. So if you burn those bridges, you're not gonna get put on.
And I think this is an important area. Maybe there's some new DJs or guys learning, like you said back the years, you're figuring out stuff maybe on your own or trying to get a thing going. Maybe there's a young kid out there watching this on the channel today and is thinking, what would it take for them to have their foot in the door? Not so much from years of experience. We kind of, as DJs, all know what that takes, but maybe there's a message you can send to somebody new about coming in and having a good attitude, as opposed to what they could do to ruin themselves too.
Well, it's not just the attitude. You have to have a good attitude. I don't care if you're the #1 DJ in the world. You got to have a good attitude, because people know and don't like working and have, especially now with the digital age, they share that information. So you don't want to be that guy. But I think to be successful as a young DJ, I think what I always tell people is like, don't be afraid to play what you want to play. I go, I used to DJ on campus. I used to DJ on campus once a month. And good chances is the people going to vibe off and like it. Because there's again, going back to that campus, they got me going there after these guys were playing nothing but all the big bangers from the big EDM DJs, and I played hip hop and house and R&B and old school stuff. I played NSYNC sometimes, and people would go bananas because they weren't expecting it. Because the last 15 days before that, all they were doing was playing the same shit. So just don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to play everything.
Yeah, you guys listening, take that advice. I mean, that's so important, and that's years of experience talking to you.